In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who came in the person of Master Faraj Muhammad, to whom praises are forever due. And in the name of his last and greatest apostle, our dear leader and teacher and perfect guide, Assalamu alaikum. When I said his last and greatest apostle, our dear leader, perfect teacher and guide, I'm speaking of none other than the great Elijah Muhammad. I say he's the last and greatest. That means that we will not get another messenger. There will not be another holy man risen up to teach the people the truth. Why? Because the truth about who is God and who is the devil has been taught to people, especially black people here in the wilderness of North America, from 1931 to 1975. Unfortunately, we as a people have rejected this knowledge, and our rejection eventually will bring about our ultimate demise. Messenger Muhammad said that we were on the brink of extinction. He said this around May of 1959 in a speech at the Uline Arena in Washington, D.C. You can go and listen to that speech. You can find it on YouTube probably. You can also read about it in an article in the book, The Fall of America. Mr. Muhammad was not whistling Dixie in his approach to the problem between the black man in America and his white adversary, the devil. He referred to the white man as the race of devils, and that they had created a world that would be in opposition to the truth in the last days. And this truth, brothers and sisters, is rooted in the teachings of separation between both people. Here we are in the white man's calendar year of 2020. 2020. And we are still running around acting as though the solution to the problem is not here. I mean, can you imagine you keep going back to the doctor for the same sickness and he give you the prescription, and you go to the pharmacy to get the prescription filled, and you never go in the medicine cabinet to take the medicine. But yet you go back to the doctor and say you're suffering from the same illness. Whether it's the prescription and the solution to your illness is right in your grasp. All you have to do is go into your medicine cabinet. Well, that's what this Islam is. This Islam is the solution to our problems. Islam is not a religion. It's a mathematical formula. It's rooted in the nature and the divine order of mathematics. And there is no science higher than mathematics. And after learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, it stands true. What is this saying? If we don't have proof that this Islam works, then maybe we haven't learned it. And that's my subject today. So I'm going to give you, as well as myself, the science of sticking to something, to a formula for 6 months. I hope not to be long, but I hope not to be wrong. I'm going to say this again. I hope not to be long, and I hope not to be wrong. Because if I'm wrong, then I could be charged with lying and misrepresentation of the truth. So, to keep me from doing that, I'm going to read something from The Making of Devil, and then I'm going to make the attempt to unpack it. And I pray to Allah that He's with me as I speak these words. We here at the Do for Self Academy Temple of Islam here in Richmond, Virginia, we represent a small flicker of light. We don't know everything. Matter of fact, it's a lot that I do not know. I'm man enough and humble enough to admit it. It is so much for me to learn. And I'm thankful to Allah that I maintain the posture of a student. But this is what I do know. That the Messenger of Allah's teaching that he received from Master Prophet Muhammad, Allah God in person, on separation is our only solution. That's the end game. And one of my processes in life is to go to the end game and work my way back. Meaning, the process of separation. The process to get to the end game, that's where the real jewels lie. Too many times we want the result, but we're not willing to go through the process of discovery. We don't want to learn. We get just enough information to keep us a slave to ignorance, to keep us strung up in the falsehood of our enemies. The enemy, the white man, he's not keeping you a slave. You're keeping yourselves a slave because you refuse to do your own work. And what's keeping you from doing this work, you can find them in your individual attachments. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your jobs, it could be your business, it could be your material possessions, it could be in so many different things, people, places, things, and ideas. And you as an individual, and I as an individual, must understand the science of committing ourselves to something for 6 months. And that's my subject, the science of 6 months. So I'm going to take this from the Message to the Black Man, page 103, titled, The Making of Devil. Messenger Muhammad, he wrote, he said, you have learned from the reading of history that a nation's permanent success depends on its obedience to Allah. Now, the Nation of Islam, it fell in 1975. And there have been many inept groups, sects, and cults that have made the futile attempt to try to put it back as it once was. None of these attempts will be successful. The reason why there can be no success in this is because that nation fell and everything that Messenger Elijah Muhammad built, that the nation stood for, was taken away with the exception of the language. The farms, the schools, the newspaper factories, the training of the men, the businesses, the banks, the program for jets, import, export policies. Messenger Muhammad, he built a nation within a nation. And they gave all that back, I want to say within 6 months. But it was necessary because those people were festered with their own weaknesses, with their own jinn like characteristics. They were festered and honeycombed with hypocrisy, deviancy, weak belief, disbelief, and they wanted ease. So, Meshaelaji Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad, or Warith Muhammad, he came along and he provided them with that ease. We can find all of this in Meshaelaji Muhammad's teachings on this subject, the making of devil. He said that you have learned, I'm going to read this again, from the reading of history, that a nation's permanent success depends on its obedience to Allah. We have seen the white race devils in heaven among the righteous causing trouble, making mischief, and causing bloodshed until they were discovered. Let us unpack this for a second. We're talking about history, but we're also talking about lessons. Lessons. What is the lesson here? He said, we have seen the white race, devils in heaven among the righteous causing trouble, making mischief, and causing bloodshed until they were discovered. The white race has created his own world, their own world. And his world has an unlike attracting power component to it. And this unlike attracting power comes among the righteous. It has a magnetic pull or effect on the righteous. And because it has power, it moves the weak people into his kingdom. And once you allow this world of the white man to come among your being, starting with your thoughts, the things that you are after, the things that you are in love with, the things that you are trying to erect to survive in this world, it is almost impossible after a certain period of time to get rid of that world in your mind. So you have to discover what is causing you the trouble. And I must discover what is causing me the trouble. And when you discover or learn just what is causing you the trouble from the white race's mind that have infiltrated your mind, you then must come up with a process and a remedy that you apply repetitively for a minimum of 6 months to rid yourself of these habits and weaknesses. Some of it is root, you can find it in laziness, procrastination. So you may get up and go to work every day, you may take care of your family, you may do all of these things for the benefit of your own individual self and your lifestyle in the white race's world. But when it's presented to you that we must build our own world, you don't have the capacity to do it. Why? Because you are paralyzed. You've been put to sleep and your mind is numb. You're damaged. You've become weak. You become a poison animal eater. And you need a remedy. And once this remedy is offered to you, and you're able to discover from your learning what is causing you this trouble, brothers and sisters, then it's going to require you to commit yourselves to turning this around. And this commitment must last for a minimum, as I said earlier, of 6 months. 6 months every single day. All of your free time, your waking moment, must be committed to turning this around. If you miss a day, you have to start over. Because what you have accumulated is you have something that is called compound failures. And that means, brothers and sisters, we cannot miss any steps. The man said that they made trouble for 6 months, right in heaven. That's our key right there, brother. That's our key. They made trouble for 6 months, right in heaven, deceiving the ancient original people who were holy. Now, if our people were holy, but they were ancient, and they were deceived, then that should tell you and I that the knowledge that they had was insufficient. You can't deceive a people that has a superior knowledge. And this superior knowledge is rooted in the truth about Allah God and the devil. And when we fail to get the knowledge of Allah and try to make Allah other than who He is, the original man, then you naturally are going to make the attempt to make the devil, the white man, other than who he is. And you cannot make Allah out to be other than who he is, and you cannot make the devil out to be other than who he is. So this trouble is taking place in your mind, is in your brain. It's the war of Armageddon taking place every single day because you can't decide which God you will serve. Brothers and sisters, this is the truth from our Lord, praises be to Allah. So you and I must commit ourselves to turn this around for 6 months. Upon your entry into what is called the Lost Foundation of Islam, we are given a 6-month period to divest ourselves of the devil's habits. Am I right or wrong? This is a science. This is something that I discovered just a few short weeks ago. And I've been in Islam all of my adult life, almost 40 years now. I've been associated with this teaching. And I discovered this science. I mean, it's a hard science too. It's not a soft science. This is mathematics. And I discovered this a few short weeks ago. Because as a poor righteous teacher who do not believe in the teachings of the 10%, it's my responsibility to show and prove on the teachings of Allah God. I must be able to explain in a mathematical way, praise be to Allah, the teachings of Islam as being 100% right and exact. And we can only discover the process of such a dynamic truth in our approach to the teachings of separation. Without approaching the subject of separation, all you have is religious stupidity. And you're going to go to the extreme, worshiping religion, and you're going to fail to recognize that you, the black man, is responsible for building our own civilization. And even when you come to a conclusion that maybe that is correct, but because you have allowed this white racist world to enter into your mind or into your holy land, which represents your brain, you don't have the capacity to move at the rate of speed necessary to bring about a change. Why? Because for an extended period of time, you've been eating from the devil's table. So now it is very difficult for you to be led in the right direction. Very difficult. You're going to be easily to be led in the wrong direction. Why? It's because of what you have been doing, what you have been building, the foundation that you have laid for an extended period of time. And brothers and sisters, we just don't change like that. You can't change a large a cruise ship. You can't get that ship to change courses like you can a little small speedboat. The ship is too big. It has too much cargo. It has too many people on it. Well, this is the same way our brains work. You just don't shift your brain zoom, zoom, zoom like that. No, it takes time. And you have to give it time. And you have to discover a process. And you have to follow this process. As a matter of fact, you must fall in love with this process. And when you fall in love with this process, and I begin to fall in love with this process, the end result will take care of itself. Praise be to Allah. So, we must first have a beginning. We must first have a beginning. And that is, we must be determined to seek a change. Because dissatisfaction, it brings about a change. So teaches Messenger Elijah Muhammad. He said at the time of Yaqub's birth, Yaqub is the maker of the white man, who was born 20 miles outside of the holy city. He was born out 20 miles outside of the circle of the gods. He was born 20 miles outside of righteousness. That's a science. That is something for us to study. Too many times, brothers and sisters, praise be to Allah, we are outside of the circle of wisdom. And being outside of this circle of wisdom, it manifests all of our weak desires and the components of dissatisfaction that we receive for allowing the white racist world and his mind to come among us. And many times we're not able to identify it because we're not drinking, we're not smoking, we're not, committing fornication and adultery, we're not gambling, we're not eating pork. There's a lot of things that we're not doing. So we see ourselves as being better people. But let me tell you, brothers and sisters, that's just the beginning stages. That's because if you're doing all of these things just to have a better position in the world of the white man, you're still missing the whole point of having Islam. Islam is about separation, brothers and sisters. It's not about, how well you look and how many times you eat a day. Of course, those are all precepts. Those are things that falls in lines with our principles of Islam. But these principles of Islam, they are there in the rules and laws and the procedures and our conduct. They are there to bring about one end, and that is separation. And the message said 99% of us do not know that our future is at stake. And if you said 99% of us, and this was in 1973, 99% of black people did not know that our future was at stake. You can find this in The Fall of America. And he referred to the white race as the universal snoopers coming around planting seeds. And you don't realize, because you can get up and start your car up in the morning. Hell, some of you can start your car You don't have to get in. You just push your button and start your car. You have all of these comforts. You understand what I'm saying? From the white race. All of these luxuries. You get up, you go to work, or you go to your office. You know, you're able to drink coffee and eat your breakfast, you know, and you eat good. You've gotten off of pork, the physical pork, you know, but you haven't gotten off the mental poison yet. You know, you've gotten off the physical poison animal, but the mental poison animal is still keeping you a slave. So we must commit ourselves for a minimum of 6 months to turn this around. Because if you don't commit yourself to 6 months for a bare minimum to turn this process around, you're going to remain in a state of dissatisfaction. You're going to be dissatisfied with the teachings of Islam. You're going to be dissatisfied or satisfied with the one or the other. So you begin to hear people like myself who represents the teachings of Islam in a very real way in regards to separation. You'll find things to become dissatisfied with us about. It's not that you're dissatisfied with me as an individual. You're dissatisfied with Master Fard Muhammad, and you're dissatisfied with Elijah Muhammad, and you're dissatisfied with the truth. The Jesus said, all men will hate you for my name's sake. Well, this is really talking about Elijah Muhammad. And the scripture said, and he who endures to the end will be saved. So when the subject of separation, to pool our resources, to build a world of our own, is brought to you and I, you find yourself hating it. And the reason why you hate it, there are many reasons. It's because you have become spoiled and robbed and paralyzed to a mental death due to your failure to getting up, organizing yourselves, uniting with the righteous to build a kingdom for ourselves. So you come among us looking for something because you've tried all these other little groups, all these other little sects. You know, you've tried, you know, the conscious group. You've tried that temple. You've tried that temple. You've tried that group of hypocrites. You've tried that form of deviancy. You've tried everything. You've been running around looking for guidance, trying to solve this dissatisfaction. The reason why you're having a problem is because you are void of divine guidance. And the reason why you are void of divine guidance is because you won't sit still long enough to discover just who is causing you the problem. It's right in the message teachings. It's right here in this article. He said they made trouble for 6 months right in heaven, deceiving the ancient original people who were holy. But when they learned just who was causing the trouble, they, as you have learned, cast the troublemakers out into the worst and poorest part of our planet. Now you have to ask yourself the question, have you really learned it? I know I have. Praise be to Allah. Once I'm able to discover this is a science, this is a mathematical formula that I make the attempt to apply every morning. What's going to be my impediment to security and peace today? Is it going to be my desire to make money? Is it going to be my desire to overcome the sickness? What is going to be my hindrance? Is it going to be my desire to bring more people into the fold of our movement? And are those people, are they really aligned with what we're doing, or are they a part of this monkey family who jump from one tree to the next looking for something? And I have to, as a teacher, as a 5% poor righteous teacher, I have to analyze this every single day. Because, praise be to Allah, the messenger of Allah, he gave us the formula to be able to discover just what is causing us this trouble. It could be that which I love, people, places, things, and ideas, that the naked eye can hardly detect because it's not an outright manifestation of evil. It could be something of good. In a way of not being an amplified evil. Though it may be good, it's not good for me at the moment because it brings about an evil result. So it started causing me trouble. And once I'm able to discover this, then I have to work on it for 6 months. Whatever it is. This is the teachings of Islam and the science, the mathematical formula that we must be able to apply for a sustained period of time if we are serious about separation. Separation is not a notion. It's not a notion. It may be a notion to you in your infancy or in your baby stage. But once you begin to learn just how important separation really is, you will then discover just who's causing you trouble. And you're going to run that trouble into the poorest part of your planet, of your circumference. You're going to put it out. You're going to learn to separate yourself from them. People, places, things, and ideas. But you must commit yourselves to the study of this for a minimum of 6 months. And this is how you are able to divest yourself of the devil's habits. The message said that they, the white race, they were punished by being deprived of divine guidance for 2,000 years, which brought them almost into the family of wild beasts, going upon all fours, eating raw and unseasoned, uncooked food, living in caves and treetops, climbing and jumping from one tree to the other. See, your mind runs like that. You go from one thing to another. Why? Because you're rejecting guidance. And you won't find this guidance just in books. He didn't leave you just books. I know he said that when he left literature or guidance in the form of literature. But Yaqub didn't leave tablets and writings and things of that nature. He left people and books. And so did the messenger. He didn't just leave us books. You just can't go into the message of the black man and find these jewels. You have to find there are people here to help you and I. And eventually, you will become one of those people. Like I've become one of those people, praise be to Allah, who was able to commit myself to make a complete change for a minimum of 6 months. This is how we break a habit and form a new habit. You don't just break a habit, you must replace it with a better one. And that takes time because it takes repetition. It takes you and I going to class. It takes you and I showing up at the university. But too many times we have too many absences charged to our account, so we never get our diploma. So we have to start all over again. Why? Because you have these compound failures. In comparison to compound interest. Compound interest is a terrible interest rate. Messi referred to this installment buying as a Bangor's rope about the black man's neck. Well, our mistakes manifest itself the same way. It's because we fail to show up for class to receive the guidance from Allah and His Messenger. We reject divine guidance. The devil being deprived of divine guidance, we walk them 2,200 miles into the caves and hillsides of Europe and said we took from them everything except the language. So what am I trying to get at, brothers and sisters, before I bring this to a close? Everything that the messenger built was taken away. Everything except the language. We must understand the language, commit ourselves to the study, and then we will discover just who and what is causing us trouble. And once we are able to discover just who is causing this trouble, we're going to run this from among us. And we begin to run it from among and keep it away. Keep it away. Otherwise, this white race is under like attracting power. It will annihilate our future. We represent a small flicker of light. Messenger Muhammad said almost all of the light was out in the holy city Mecca. Only thing was there was a flicker of light. And we represent that flicker of light for a time period far into the future. And I'm not going to get too far into that, praise be to Allah, for defense mechanism purposes. But the Christ child was born in a manger because it was necessary to keep the child from being discovered, found, and destroyed. That's a science. So sometimes we talk too much. We tell too much of what we know. And I'm not going to do all of that, because if I tell everything that I know, then not only are you going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to invite the enemy to come knock on my door, and I don't have sense enough to be scared or afraid of anything. Praise be to Allah for His messenger, but I do have to use tactic. So here at the Do For Self Academy, Temple of Islam, you can find us on the World Wide Web at www.thedoforselfacademy.com. That's www.thedo, the number 4, academy.com. The Do For Self Academy.com. The Do For Self Academy.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web. It kind of gives you some insight of what we're about and what we are up against. Brothers and sisters, commit yourselves for 6 months to study every single day. You spend 8 hours, 9 hours working. You spend 8 hours sleeping. That leaves you about 16 hours. Then you have to drive. You have to sit down and eat. You have to bathe. You have to take care of your entire day. And that probably leaves you with maybe a few hours. What do you do with that time? I'm going to tell you what you do with that time. You allow devilishment to enter into your mind. You allow the devil's world to enter into your mind. And you must discover what that is. Because right now, you could be at a point that your naked eye can hardly detect it. And because the naked eye can hardly detect it, you're making rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes right up beneath your own feet. You're bringing these catastrophic occurrences right to your own life because you're not making the necessary changes when the time presents itself. So, what started out as something small that the naked eye can hardly detect, it goes up in the atmosphere, get but so far, and then it has to come back down because naturally what goes up must come down. And then when it comes down, if you're not making changes, the momentum, it picks up other tiny fine mists of water. It picks up other jinn like thoughts, other devils or forms of devilishment. And by the time it hit the earth, what started out as a tiny fine mist of water that the naked eye can hardly detect now becomes a piece of lint. And then you still don't make the change. You got to go right back up there again. Same process takes place. It's coming back down now. And you're still not making the changes. So it picks up some more evil. It picks up more devilishment, envy, pride, hatred, gluttonous, laziness, cowardice. You know, it picks these things up. So now it's gone from a tiny fine mist of water that the naked eye can hardly detect. So then, and then a piece of lint now becomes a pebble. And it does keep completing this process over and over again, and you never make changes. And before you know it, you have a hailstorm the size of a boulder. And it's rumbling underneath of your feet. And it's falling out of the sky. Rain and hail, snow and earthquake is going on in your lives. Why? Because you refuse to follow the divine guidance of change and commit yourself for at least 6 months to bring about a change. Islam, as taught by Messenger Elijah Muhammad, is the solution to our problems. And it comes after everything fails. Praises be to Allah. May Allah bless each and every one of us with the continual light of understanding. Pray to Master Farad Muhammad like the Messenger told you and I. Pray to him. Get those 5 prayers in a day. If you would like to learn more about our program, those of you who have yet to come into the knowledge of Islam, or you may have some surface knowledge from reading some books and running to some people in the streets that's giving you a little knowledge, that are able to spellbound you with some rhetoric. If that's good enough, if you find yourself here through that process, but then to come here, it requires a lot more than rhetoric. It requires us to learn to be able to understand the necessity for high mathematics, which is Islam. So may Allah bless us. When I say Allah, I mean Allah who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise I forever do. May he bless us, may he bless us, may he bless us to stick with the program and the teachings of Islam as taught by Messenger Elijah Muhammad according to the time. Because without knowledge of the time, we still will be the loser. May Allah bless each and every one of us with the light of understanding. Assalamu alaikum.